Hello students, today's class we will be talking about protozoan diseases, which is a very fatal diseases in the world of recent years, and these are the ones that is going to create havoc and fatality in mankind. There are different protozoan diseases in the world, but we will be concentrating on those diseases that is affecting the mankind. So, if you are going to directly start off with diseases of protozoan, we will talk a little bit about what protozoans are. Protozoans means, proto means primitive and zoan means animal. These are the primitive animals that were present in the universe. They are made up of unicellular animals, and they are eukaryotic, heterotrophic, that is they cannot prepare their own food, and they come from different shapes, sizes ranging from amoeba, which can change its shape, to paramecium with its fixed shape and complex structure. Now, they live in a wide variety of moist habitats, including freshwater, marine environment, and of course soils. Some parasitics which live in other plants and animals, including humans, where they cause diseases. Now, what are the characters they have is they have different types of motility. When you are talking about motility, these parasites have to move from one place to another for their living being, that is in search of their food. So, there are three types of motility in them, that is amoeboid movement, where the organism moves by sending out pseudopodia, that is a temporary protrusions that fill the cytoplasm that flows from the body of the cell. Cilia, that is a tiny hair like structure that you find in the paramecium, which beats in a regular continuous pattern like flexible oars, that is the oars like that of a boat that they come across. So, that is the movement they have in cilia type of movement. Then the next one is the flagella, which is a long thread like, or rather you can call them as whip like structures, which help them in the motion that produces waves which propels the microbe around. So, these are the three types of motility that they have. Now, when you are talking about the species of the protozoans, there are 65,000 species of protozoan characterized in different groups. They lack a cell wall because they are not plant cells, and there are many different cell organelles that perform various tasks. And there are many protozoans that are capable of causing various diseases in animals and humans. For example, we can talk about Plasmodium, which causes malaria, Trypanosoma, which causes Trypanosomiasis and Trichomonas, etc. There are different types. There are also Leishmaniasis and different types that you find. Now, what is their life cycle about? The most protozoans alternate between dormant cyst and proliferating vegetative stage, that is a trophozoites. In a dormant cyst, the cyst can survive outside the host cell, that is they can survive harsh conditions without water, nutrients. It can remain outside the host for a longer duration and can get transmitted later on whenever there is favorable condition. The trophozoite stage is an infectious one, and they feed and multiply during this stage. Now, you can see in the picture over there the cyst stage, which is having the karyosomes, the nucleus and the chromatid body, whereas the trophozoites are an elongated body, that is they do not resemble like that of a cyst. They are elongated and they are motile, and you can see some pseudopodia like structures moving around which helps them in movement. So, these are the life cycles where you have two types, that is a cyst stage and a trophozoite stage, which is an infectious stage in a human body, or it can be any vertebrates they are going to infect. Now, protozoan diseases in the humans are attributed to different types of protozoans which are prevalent and fatal. Fatal, that is they are going to kill the person. These are caused by infectious protozoans in humans such as Leishmaniasis, Amoebiasis and Trypanosomiasis. Now, what is Leishmaniasis? This causes an enlarged liver and spleen, cause fever, and the skin turns dark, which is also called as kala hazar, because kala means black. So, they cause this kala hazar, that is the Leishmaniasis. Amoebiasis, again whenever you have any contaminated food, you definitely would have felt a diarrhea type of dysentery type of problems. You would have had an abdominal pain and also sometimes loss of appetite because of diarrhea, nauseatic feeling and fever, And of course, you might also would have experienced in severe condition blood in your stool, and these are because of this amoebiasis. Now coming to trypanosomiasis, high fever, muscle and joint pain, swollen lymph nodes and skin rashes, and this is the one that is going to create havoc in your blood vessels, because they are going to travel into different parts of your body, and when they are going to travel into the brain of a human, this is going to become a fatal disease. So these are the three type of diseases that we are going to discuss about in our class now. Coming to the first protozoan, that is the Leishmania. Leishmania, if you can see in the picture over there, you have two types of form. One is a cyst form, that is called an amastigote form, a cyst or round structure, and the other one is an infectious form, which is a promastigote form, an elongated one with a flagella over there. You can see the flagella. So this is the one that is going to help them in their motility, and they have a cytoplasm, a nucleus and a kinetoplast. What is the importance of a kinetoplast in these organisms is they have the DNA that are present in the mitochondria. The mitochondria is the one that is going to give them lot of secretions, or the hormonal secretions that they need for their different actions. When we are talking about the classification of Leishmania, they belong to phylum Sarcomastigophora, or it can also be called as protozoans, order Kinetoplastida, family Trypanosomatidae, genus Leishmanias. Now, when you are talking about Mastigophora, any living organisms having flagella for their motility, you call them as Mastigophora. So, this Leishmania is having a flagella, so you are going to term them as Sarcomastigophora. Kinetoplastidae, because they have kinetoplast present in them. What is kinetoplast? They are going to have mitochondrial DNA, which is going to give out different proteins for their development. Now, this Leishmania is a vector-borne disease, because they have to be carried by some vector, and this is carried by phlebotomine sand flies. So, there are a sand fly. These flies are a little bit smaller than the normal mosquito, but still they are going to create havoc, because they are going to ingest parasites into their blood, which is again given back into the human beings when they bite an uninfected person. They mostly occur in the tropics and subtropics of Africa, Asia and America, and some in southern Europe too. Now, when you are talking about the different species over here, you have 20 Leishmania species. 20 Leishmania can create different types of diseases in humans. When you are talking about cutaneous Leishmaniasis, what do you mean by cutaneous? Cutaneous means skin rashes. The skin is cutaneous. Cutaneous, where the Leishmania is going to attack. What are the different species that is going to attack the cutaneous part of your body? Leishmania tropica, Leishmania major, Leishmania aethiopica and Leishmania mexicana. Then there is another one, mucocutaneous Leishmanias, though it is very rare, but yes, they are going to affect the mucal part of the body, that is called as mucocutaneous Leishmania, caused by Leishmania brasiliensis. Then you have a very fatal Leishmaniasis, that is a visceral Leishmaniasis. Visceral part of the body is affected by this Leishmania. What are the species that are going to affect them? There will be Leishmania donovani, Leishmania infantum and Leishmania chagasi. So, these are the different types of species that are going to affect the human population. Not only human population, they are also going to affect different vertebrates, that can be the cattle, the domestic animals, your pets, all can be affected by these type of Leishmania. Now, let us talk a little bit about the life cycle of Leishmania. Now, when a sandfly is going to get the parasites and they are going to bite a human being who is uninfected, they are going to take up the blood from the uninfected person, and they are going to release a type of excreta which stays on the body. Now, because of the bite, what we do is we try to brush our skin or just try to rub our skin. Now, when you are rubbing the skin, you are trying to push that excreta into the part where the mosquito has bitten. So, there is a scar over there, and that scar is the one that causes this parasites to enter inside, because the excreta of the sandfly has these parasites. Now, because it has bitten, the space over there is open, and when you rub the excreta into that skin, because we don't know what happens when we are asleep, we just push our we just try to rub our skin. So while rubbing our skin, the excreta enters into that open scar where it has bitten, and this is going to carry that particular parasite. Now what is the parasite that is going to carry? This is going to release metacyclic promastigotes. So these are, if you can see the picture over there, so this is the metacyclic promastigote. When a sandfly is going to bite any vertebrate over there, they are going to release that metacyclic promastigote. Once into the blood circulation, this metacyclic promastigotes enter into the blood circulation. Once they are into the blood circulation, our WBCs are going to act upon them, that is the macrophages or also the granulocytes are going to act upon them. They are going to engulf the parasite and they are going to phagocytize them and throw them out. But sometimes what happens, these mastigotes, the promastigotes, they invade the macrophages over there. They try to live inside the macrophages. That is because they have an outer covering which can evade the WBCs from acting on them, because the proteins that you are going to secrete over the cell is going to protect them from the lysosomes that the macrophage is going to pour on them, and the macrophages are not able to kill them because they are unable to identify them as antigens. So what they do, they try to take shelter inside the WBCs, and what they do is they try to grow in number by multiplication. They grow in number, and then what happens is this, when bursts open, the promastigotes are released into the circulation as amastigotes, and this amastigotes, they try to reinfect the different WBCs. And the sum of the amastigotes, what is happening when they are in the WBCs and when they are circulating, what happens is when a sandfly tries to bite this infected person, they are going to carry this cyst which is carrying the WBCs, which is having amastigotes. This amastigote in the circulation goes and settles in the midgut of the sandfly. The amastigote transform into procyclic promastigotes, that is in the sandfly midgut. The procyclic promastigote, then again after some multiplication, they are going to settle at the salivary glands. There they are going to become the procyclic promastigotes by simple division. This procyclic promastigotes is going to again change into metacyclic promastigotes. Now this metacyclic promastigote, they are going to move into salivary glands and they are ready to be released outside onto the skin of any vertebrates. So this is a life cycle that keeps on moving, and as this is moving on, those that are settling inside the body, that is if they are going to infect the rest of the WBCs, is when we have different types of problems. So what are the signs and symptoms of this different types? We've discussed that this Leishmania is going to create cutaneous Leishmania, mucocutaneous Leishmania, and visceral Leishmaniasis. We'll talk a little bit about what are these different characters. Symptoms of Leishmanias are skin sore, that is wherever it's biting, you have a skin sore, a bumpy like structure erupts after the person is bitten by this infected sandfly. Now what happens is cutaneous Leishmaniasis. The most common form which causes an open sore at the bite site, which heals in a few months to a year, leaving an unpleasant looking scar. You have a very unpleasant, very fleshy looking scar which becomes a sort of a stigma. In diffuse cutaneous Leishmaniasis, they produce widespread skin lesions which resembles leprosy and may not heal on its own. They have a very weird kind of a looking on the skin. So here you can see this is a cutaneous Leishmaniasis, the first picture over there, where it is going to leave a very bad sign of a lesion on the skin. And this is a diffuse cutaneous Leishmaniasis because they have already diffused to different parts of the body, and they have this bumpy like structures which looks very awkward for the person who has been affected. The main symptoms what you find over here is painless skin ulcers. You don't have any pain, but they have ulcers over there. Cutaneous symptoms may appear a few weeks after being bitten by an infected sandfly. Say it's not going to show off immediately, because they have to infect the macrophages, and then they have to move inside the different macrophages and affect all the macrophages, so thereby reducing the immune system of our body. So that is why they are going to take a little bit time for them to show up or appear the symptoms. However, sometimes symptoms won't appear for months or years, because we can say that our WBCs are working very well. Now, the second Leishmaniasis is a mucocutaneous Leishmaniasis, though this is very rare, but yes, this is going to affect the mucous layers of the cutaneous skin. That is, it can cause both skin and mucosal ulcers, which damage primarily the nose and the mouth. Why? Because this is the place where the mucus is secreted, and sometimes also the tracheal part. Symptoms of here is usually they appear 1 to 5 years after the skin lesions. These are primarily ulcers of the mouth, nose, or on the lips. You can see the person being affected by this particular mucocutaneous Leishmaniasis. Other symptoms include a runny or stuffy nose, nosebleeds, and difficulty in breathing. Now, coming to the last Leishmaniasis diseases, that is the visceral Leishmaniasis, and this is a very fatal one if untreated, and this is also called as Kala Azar. Why? Because it is called as a black fever, where all the visceral organs are going to become black because of anemia probably. Other sequences which can occur a few months to years after infection include fever, damage to the spleen and liver, and of course they cause anemia. So, mostly the spleen and the liver is being damaged, because during the circulation this mastigotes, the amastigotes, they are going to affect the liver and the spleen, and they are going to survive over there by spoiling the WBCs. Symptoms often do not appear for months after the bite with this type of Leishmaniasis, but the common symptoms include weight loss, weakness, fever that lasts for weeks or months, enlarged spleen, enlarged liver. So, you can see in the picture over there, the person is affected by this enlarged spleen or liver. Though this person is malnourished, the stomach seems to look that he is completely eating lots of food, but no, because this is the one that is going to create the enlargement in the liver and the spleen of the infected person, and sometimes decreased blood cells, bleeding, and swollen lymph nodes. Because of the enlargement of the swollen lymph node, this also causes a increase in the size of that particular visceral organs. That was about Leishmaniasis. Now, we will talk about Entamoeba histolytica. Phylum Protozoa, because they are primitive animals. Class Sarcodina. Why? Because they have pseudopodia. Order Amoebina, because they belong to amoeba. Genus Entamoeba, species Histolytica. Entamoeba means these are the the organisms living in the intestine. Histolytica, histo means tissue, lytic, that is they are going to destruct the tissue part. So, that is the name given to them, Entamoeba histolytica. If you can see in the picture over here, the Entamoeba histolytica, they are showing some pseudopodia. They also have some food vacuole. This is the food vacuole that stores the food in them, and you also have an ectoplasm, endoplasm, and you can also find some RBCs, ingested RBCs, that are present in the Entamoeba histolytica. So, that is they have ingested some RBCs inside them. Okay. Coming to its characters, these are anaerobic parasites, because they are going to survive in the intestine where there is not much of oxygen present. So, they are anaerobic parasites, and they are found mostly in the large intestine of the human, because they are going to get lodged in the human intestines, and this is the third leading parasite cause of death in the developing countries, because every year millions of death is occurred because of this particular Entamoeba histolytica, mostly in poor countries where there is malnourishment that you find, and where there is no cleanliness followed. This is the one that is going to create havoc in this particular developing countries also. The specific chronic condition, it can reach the liver, brain, lung, and other body organs by entering the blood circulation. They are going to move by blood circulation, because they do not have any locomotory organ. They have to move with the help of the circulatory system. and as a result it has the capability of causing critical diseases like amoebiasis, or is also called as amoebic dysentery, or also blood diarrhea, because they are going to lyse, or they are going to destruct the tissue of the intestine, whereby the blood is released, and hence they are called as blood diarrhea or blood loose motions. And invasive extraintestinal amoebiasis such as liver abscesses and pleuropulmonary abscesses can also be seen. Liver abscesses means there is a destruction of the liver. Now, coming to the life cycle, so how it is going to go and affect our system over there. When the food, contaminated food is ingested by a human, that is say contaminated old food, or when the person is working in the mud and suddenly he has put it inside his mouth, these entamoeba stays in the soil and different contamination, and also because of the feces of infected person, the feces, when it is mixed with the drinking water, that is sometimes you can say the drainage water is mixed up with the drinking water, all those happen sometimes, and when a person is ingesting this type of contaminated food and water, what happens is we are ingesting the cyst. You can say that the entamoeba is in a dormant stage, it is called a cyst, and in an active stage you are going to call them as trophozoites. Now, the dormant stage mature cyst is going to be ingested. They pass through the mouth into the esophagus and they settle into stomach. From the stomach, they are going to invade the intestine. So, this is the place where they are going to take shelter, because that is the reason why they are called as entamoeba, because they are going to take shelter in the intestine. Now, once in the intestine, they undergo excistation. I am not saying as encystment, because here I am saying it as excistation, that is the trophozoite are released from the cyst. So, this is a mature cyst over here, and once it is into the intestine, they are undergoing encystment. The trophozoites are released outside. Now, this trophozoite is having 4 nucleus present in them. They are also called as quadrinucleate cyst, because quadri means 4, nucleate means nucleus. So, they are going to have 4 nucleus present in them. They are going to undergo division, and each cyst is going to give rise to 8 trophozoites. That is, each nucleus is going to divide and they are going to give rise to 8 trophozoite. Now, this trophozoite migrate into the large intestine from the small intestine. They are going to migrate into the large intestine, from where they are going, sometimes they can be excreted out through the feces. Now, some of them, they are going to move through the circulation, and in the intestine, when it is a invasive type of trophozoite, what they do is they try to lyse the tissue part of the intestine, and from there they are going to enter into the circulatory system. Now, once into the circulatory system, they this is an invasive type of a trophozoite I am talking about. Once into the circulatory system, what they are going to do, they are going to either enter the liver and play a havoc over there. They are going to try to enter the lungs, leading to breathing problems over there, and sometimes they can also affect the brain. Now, that was invasive type of trophozoites. Now, once it becomes a non-invasive type of trophozoite, what happens is they are released out through the feces, and from the feces they are gone in outside the environment. Encystment occurs again to this trophozoite, because they have to have a protective layer, because they have to withstand the harsh environment outside. Now, once encysted, they undergo divisions, and the immature cyst is going to divide into binucleate type of cyst. This binucleate is again going to divide itself to undergo quadrinucleate cyst. So, that is what we call it as 4 nucleus, and the cyst exists from the host and they enter into the environmental condition, and then we are ingesting whenever we are going to have any contaminated food. Now, this is how a trophozoite looks like inside the system, that is under the microscope. You can see the trophozoite having different RBCs that has been ingested. And while symptoms of your diarrhea, colitis and tissue destruction, and they tend to appear 1 to 4 weeks after ingestions, and a rare complication of disease is trophozoite may breach the intestinal walls and the bloodstream, and they can lead into the liver, heart, lungs, brain and other organs. Now, coming to the last one is Trypanosoma gambians, phylum Protozoa, Mastigophora, because they are going to have a flagella over there. Trypanosomatidae is the order, family Trypanosomatidae, genus Trypanosoma. Now, this type of trypanosoma you can find in African countries where there is Gambia over there on the western side of Africa, and there is Rhodesia in the eastern side of Africa. So, this type of Leishman, the trypanosoma is going to occur in this mostly in African countries. This is known also as a very dangerous disease called the African sleeping sickness or protozoan hemoflagellates of genus Trypanosoma. This is having two subspecies which causes distinct diseases pattern, that is Trypanosoma brucei gambians, Trypanosoma brucei rhodesians. Brucei is found only in the cattle, so we will be talking a little bit of Gambians here. This causes chronic condition, that is West African sleeping sickness, because Gambians means Amoebia, you find them in mostly in the Amoebia of Africa, and that can remain in passive phase for months or years. Trypanosoma rhodesiense is a East African sleeping sickness which is an acute form of disease, and death can occur within months because acute form is more dangerous than the chronic form, and within months you can have death, and this is more virulent and faster developing. And the third species is brucei. Now, this is the tsetse fly that is going to infect because it is a vector borne disease, and the tsetse fly is the one that is going to infect the humans, that is they are going to induce this trypanosoma into the human circulation. What happens is, once the tsetse fly is biting the human, the trophozoites are released inside, the metacyclic trophozoites are released inside the blood circulation, and the metacyclic trophozoite becomes the trophozoite forms, which again divides itself to form different types of trypomastigotes, and trypomastigotes are the one that is going to infect different parts of our body. Now, this once when the blood is taken by the tsetse fly, they are going to go into the the midgut of the tsetse fly, where they are going to form into different forms, and from where they are going to again infect the human system. Now, what is the symptoms? Early stages, they multiply in subcutaneous tissue, blood and lymph. This is also called as hemolymphatic because they are going to infect the blood. So, hemolymphatic stage, which shows non-specific symptoms such as fever, headaches, enlarged lymph nodes, joint pains and itching. A person can be infected for months or even years without major sign or symptoms of the disease. So, this was early stage of sleeping sickness. When you are talking about advanced stage, that is very much even more advanced stage, where the obvious infection can be seen, they cross the blood brain barrier in the central nervous system, and this is called a neurological or meningococcal encephalitic stage. In this stage, more obvious signs and symptoms appear, that is changes in the behavior, that is because they have infected our neurological system, that is they have crossed the blood brain barrier and they have infected the neurons. So, what happens is they show some behavioral changes, the person goes under confusion, they have sensory disturbances and poor coordination, that is they sometimes have these illusions because their sleep is completely disturbed, and the disturbance of the sleep cycle gives the disease its name, that is the sleeping sickness. So, you can see this person who are affected, they do not know what is happening, they are only sleeping. So, this was about the protozoan diseases that we have talked about in today's class. Hope you have understood the class. Thank you.